Everyone, thank you for joining. This is, for those who have been following, this is our third in the series of webinars on wellness we're doing. We started off with fitness, then we went on to nutrition, and now we're going to talk about the important subject of sleep and recovery, and specifically the importance of sleep itself too. And it's not with respect to just athletes or Olympic athletes or professional athletes, it's really with respect to us. Sort of folks who are working day to day, who are stressed from different things within work, within family, within environment and everything. And so that's going to be the approach here. And the key takeaways here are going to be to have specific action items of things to look for and things to do in order for us to recover and rest better. So that said, I'm going to be moderating the session. If you have any questions whatsoever during the session, there's a Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. Please don't hesitate. We want to keep this as very informal as possible, so very interactive. So please ask your questions. I'll be popping in and out and basically asking your questions on your behalf to Fayez. And I'll do so either right on the spot or when I know there's a specific topic that's going to come up that's related to the question, I'll ask it there. And yeah, and so we're ready to go. So that said, I'm gonna pass it on to Lilly. Lilly, the floor is yours, and then let's have some fun. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Rafi. I just want to welcome everyone and thank you all for attending our webinar today, covering sleep, rest, recovery, and regeneration. My name is Lilly Chavez, and I'm the Wellness Manager for Group Benefits here at RBC Insurance. You may recall last year that we launched our digital wellness program in partnership with LifeWorks. We launched the program because we are committed to providing you, our plan members, with the information and resources you need to achieve your best health so that you can live your best life. One example of the resources available to you is this series of sessions that we partnered with LifeWorks and Lift Session to bring to you. As Rafi mentioned earlier this year, we presented webinars on the topics of nutrition and physical fitness. And today we're very happy to bring you a valuable session on sleep and recovery. Beyond today's session, I want to encourage you to take some time to explore the RBC Insurance Digital Wellness Program. It's available to you free of charge as part of your health benefits. There you'll find a wealth of resources to support your health journey. You can access the program by signing into your Group Benefit Solution site and selecting the Wellness tile, or you can log into the RBC Insurance My Benefits app and tap on the Wellness button. Accessing it is easy, single sign-on, no other logins or passwords required. So we encourage you to go on and really explore the tool that's available to you at no extra charge. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker today. Today we have Fayez Abdul Rahman. Fayez graduated from Concordia University in 2006 from the Exercise Science Athletic Therapy Program and was certified as a Strength and Conditioning Specialist with the National Strength and Conditioning Association in 2007. He's been actively working in the field of fitness as a personal trainer since 2003. And an athletic therapist since 2004, helping people achieve their goals while keeping them motivated and healthy. Being active his whole life, he participated in numerous sports over the years, including soccer, hockey, martial arts, tennis, skiing, snowboarding, football, volleyball. The list goes on and on. Hard for us to imagine that you could fit all that into your schedule. His passion for athletics has led him to devote his career to working with athletes and those committed to physical activity. His strong understanding of the demands that sports play on the body and his drive to help others achieve their goals have inspired him to work at the highest levels, including with Olympic athletes, B210 athletes, weekend warriors, and professional sports players. So over to you, Fayez, to take us through today's webinar.
Thank you, Lilly, and thank you, Rafi, and thank you, everybody, for having me and taking the time to sit in our webinar today. It's going to be a fun webinar. I know sleep is something a lot of people understand, but at the same time don't understand. There's a lot of elements, so hopefully today we'll look at sleep and rest and recovery and how that can benefit everybody. So the importance of sleep, rest, and recovery. So obviously we kind of have a general understanding that sleep's important. We all understand that we need to sleep. But there's a lot of physical elements and how it affects our body, and mentally and physically, right? So we have our mental, refreshes mental energy, avoids burnout and fatigue. We all know that if we're tired, that we're more likely to get burnt out or fatigued or irritable. Helps rebuild muscle tissue, bone and ligaments and joints. Helps replenish our energy stores and helps reduce the risk of injury. And as well, overtraining, overworkedness, being overworked. There's 3 types of fatigue where I think people don't seem to understand all of the types, right? So there's metabolic fatigue, which I think most people understand. Metabolic fatigue is like reduced energy stores. If you don't eat enough, let's say. So that kind of thing, like lacking sugar in your diet, lacking fats in your diets that are energy producers to help produce energy throughout our day. Psychological fatigue, which most people understand, which is reduced performance, motivation, irritability, all the things when you start changing your personality a little bit because of fatigue. Right, and you'll notice that with friends and family. I'm sure everybody's experienced that once in their life, at least. Where nervous fatigue is where people don't really understand, and it's an element that's overlooked. And the nervous system fatigues quicker than the muscular system. So if you are tired, you're going to fatigue faster because of your nervous system versus your metabolic or psychological system. Your nervous system drives everything, right? And it's going to, and your psychological system and nervous system are all intertwined in your brain, and it's all sending out the information to your body which hormones to produce at what levels, what muscles are supposed to react a certain way, blood pressure, heart rate, all of these things. And these things can be impaired and fatigued because of lack of rest, recovery, and sleep. So how the body and mind recovers. Obviously, sleep is the pinnacle cornerstone of all that. A third of our life is spent sleeping, and there's a reason for that. We need to recover. There's an element there that people seem to, when we're young and we're partying and we go out, we used to function on 4 hours of sleep and all that. Yeah, that's good to a certain extent, but over time, you can't, even if you're young, it burns you out, right? And so we can't sustain that kind of thing. We have to be able to have good quality sleep, and a good balance is important. Low intensity activity. So we tend to work, most of the time in our society, we're on all or none function. So we either train really, really hard or we sleep for like 3 days straight. And these low intensity activities actually can play really large benefits. And this is one that's actually overlooked more than sleep, because sleep, everyone understands sleep, but low intensity activity is much more overlooked. Stretching, myofascial release, meditation, and planned rest periods. And we're going to all break through everything as we go through. And at any time, if, like Rafi said, have questions, please send it to Rafi and we'll all answer you. So why sleep is important. So best time to recover, maximize your growth hormones. If you look at a child and how they're sleeping so often, it's because their body is recovering from everything, from the visual excitement, from physical demands, because they're learning how to move and they have to recover, right? Like when we train, we get muscle soreness. The delayed onset muscle soreness is our body's ability is giving you signs that it's really needing to recover. So this is where we produce most of our growth hormones, is when we're sleeping. It helps with our mental health. It helps improve balance and calorie regulation. I can't tell you how many times that someone who's, let's say, trying to lose weight, and they push and push and push and push and push, and they can't seem to lose the weight, it's because they're not getting adequate sleep. And if they don't get adequate sleep, and they actually will gain weight. And it actually does the opposite, because the hormones that our body will normally regulate in a normal, efficient way will start to reverse its function and start to produce and store fat versus burn fat. It helps with productivity and concentration, and it also helps with your inflammation and your...
Sorry, a quick question. Growth hormone, is that only specific to, the question is to people growing, or it's all age groups we still produce for growth hormone and we need it?
We still produce all throughout our lives. Growth hormones are designed to help rebuild tissue as well. right? So if you're active and healthy and you're like in training, you need those growth hormones to help rebuild the tissue.
Okay, regardless of age.
Regardless of age, exactly.
Thank you.
So your immune system can be affected, right? When we're tired, we're more likely to get sick, and optimize your circadian rhythm. And now circadian rhythm is becoming more, people are starting to understand a little more. So circadian rhythm basically is a 24-hour period where they're looking at what our body does, because our body works in patterns. So if you look at, okay, at midnight, this is what's happening. So at first thing in the morning, the sun, your body's starts to stop producing the melatonin so you can start to wake up. So let's use the argument of 6 in the morning for that, just for this argument's sake. And then at 6 in the morning, your body stops producing the hormones. You start to wake up. You start to get up by 7. By 7, you go through your day. You're having a lunch at noon, so your body's starting to produce hormones prior to eating, and then vice versa. And then you start again at 7 o'clock, at like say 9 o'clock at night, you start producing melatonin to go to bed, right? So this circadian rhythm is very important. This can be thrown off by multiple factors. This is like when we go through jet lag, our time changed because we're normally sleeping at 7, but now we're 6 hours ahead or 14 hours ahead or behind. So now our body is trying to adjust to that new regulation. We're looking at, like, if you have eating meals at different points of the day. So if you're eating lunch at 11 versus when the next day you're eating at 1 and the next day you're eating at 12, your body actually anticipates your meal. And so if you're regularly eating meals at lunch at 12, then if you start to change that and start to throw it off, now your body has a hard time to try to regulate its hormonal demands to digesting the food. Therefore, you're throwing off the circadian rhythm. And therefore, even those little things, if you're inconsistent at eating at night and eating one moment you're eating at 6, the next night you're eating at 9, the minor variances here and there are normal. But if you're inconsistently keeping it like that, then your body is going to completely be thrown off and not have regulatory circadian rhythm, and therefore change the way your body is functioning, right? And then it's going to put stress in your body. So there's 4 stages of sleep. There's what's called wake sleep, light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep, or rapid movement eye sleep. So wake and light sleep is pretty straightforward, as you can tell. Like, you're pretty much like, you're kind of awake, and when you're awake when you're asleep. This happens quite often in the night. It's normal. It can impact total sleep time and frequency totally, because this is when you're conscious and what's happening, right? And light sleep, you're in a sleep, but your senses are still more alert, and you're still kind of understanding in your surroundings what's going on as well, but not just, it's kind of more foggy. Where a deep sleep, once you're in that deep sleep, that's when you're out, and that is the sleep you want to get into. You want to get into sleep and REM sleep, because these are the two stages of sleep where you rebuild the most, where you restore the best. And the wake and light sleep is actually the area where, if people who struggle with sleep issues, disorders, sleep apnea, insomnia, this is where they tend to have the struggle with. And this is where their body and mind cannot break through the cycles. And we want to change those cycles to be able to get into the deep and REM sleep, to be able to recover. Usually with sleep apnea, they'll stop breathing and they'll wake up, but then they're in their kind of wake sleep, light sleep. I think sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night, you're like, why am I awake? Because you end up waking up, and then your brain is stimulated, and it gets you to wake up. So typically, there's these 4 to 5 cycles per night. So
there's an interesting question here. So we spoke about circadian rhythm, and we spoke about environment and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But specifically around nutrition, and for example, eating sugar, carbs, etc. Like, how do those things affect sleep? Like, what is the right thing to do, and what should we look out for with respect to eating trends or eating habits that will help us sleep better?
So I'm not 100% like a nutrition expert, and I'll go for what I know in relation to sleep, but it can be different for certain people. But sugars will spike your blood sugar, right? And so that will create an adrenaline rush. But there's sugars in almost everything we eat. Like vegetables have sugar, right? Rice has sugars, but it doesn't mean that you can't have it at night. It's all about the balanced diet. But if you're inconsistent in the way you eat, so like if you're having a sugar spike, like so for example in breakfast, and you eat sugar purely and there's no protein, there's no fat, there's no mixture of your nutrition, you get an insulin spike, which is going to change. So then your body's now training for an insulin adaptation for the breakfast to be primarily like, let's say you have a muffin every morning and that's your breakfast every morning. So now you're training your body that you're going to spike insulin prior for breakfast. And so you get this huge insulin spike and then you crave sugar because that's what your body's adapted for. Does that make sense? And it's the same thing with all the other meals. Like your body's going to adapt to that. So all the hormones that digest proteins, fats, and sugar, your body's going to adjust to what you are eating.
Right.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Thank you.
So, no problem. And on that note, like because your body's adapting, your circadian rhythm changes, you can change your sleep patterns, because if you eat something too late that spikes your blood sugar and spikes your adrenaline to go up, then you're going to have a harder time to put yourself to bed. I
think we can summarize as basically comes back to sort of having a very healthy routine, because your body's going to adapt to whatever you're doing to it. The environment is so important, and doing things such as big sugar spikes and everything in general is bad, and doing them late is even worse, because it's just going to put your body in this overdrive mode, and you're definitely not going to be able to get into the state you need to be in to sleep efficiently, right?
Exactly.
Okay, great. Thanks, Faiz.
No problem. Thanks for the question, guys. So typically we have 4 or 5 cycles per night. It's on average an hour and a half to 2 hours. So if you calculate that there's about 4.
Guys, can you just approach the microphone just a little more? Yeah. Perfect.
Yes,
perfect. Yeah.
That better?
Perfect. Yeah.
So typically we have 4 or 5, as I said, and it's an hour and a half to 2 hours. So if you calculate we're looking back at wake sleep and light sleep, there's about 4 or 5 times in the night where you will likely can wake up. So it's common that people will wake up in the night. We get frustrated because like, oh, why did I wake up last night? There's a lot of factors that can play into it, right? But it's common that you are more sensitive to waking up because maybe the diet you ate, maybe it was the stress, because there's something on your mind. There's a lot of factors that can play into it, but there are moments normally that will allow us to wake up, right? But because we're in a deeper sleep or we're going through the night, we tend to just kind of go through that wake state pretty quickly, and then we kind of go through it back to the light, deep sleep and REM again. But if there are disturbances, then that will cause you to wake up. And some of these factors are age. We tend to require less as we get older, but at the same time, you would need more. There's a fine balance, because your body is now older. It demands you put more stress on it. You need more time to recover, versus like a child who needs a lot of sleep because they need to recover, but at the same time, as they get older, they require less sleep because they have more stamina. So it's a fine balance, and we want to make sure that we understand like what we're doing to our bodies, what the external factors are, and then how much sleep is required for us to go. And that's actually a little bit of a trial and error, and working with specialists if you struggle with it. Gaps between periods. So like if you're traveling, let's say to Australia, and you lose a day plus it's 48-hour flight, you've lost like practically 2 days. Now you've lost a day of sleep. Your body can struggle with that. And if you're someone who travels often, that can really take some toll on your body. Medication can affect your sleep. Exercise, smoking, caffeine, screen time. Some of the screens on our phones, computers, TV, all that can affect stimulate us. So even though we're watching, let's say like a lot of people like to watch TV before going to bed to relax their mind, but the blue light on the screen is actually stimulating your brain. So you're feeling sluggish and tired because your melatonin is kicking in, but your brain is getting a stimuli, and that stimuli is keeping you up. So then when you go to bed, it takes you about a half hour to 45 minutes before you actually fall asleep. So we got to think about that, and we're going to go into that a little bit more about things you should do to try to adjust. Alcohol is a big problem as well. So what happens with alcohol is, when we drink, we have this high, we're all having a good time, and then all of a sudden we get this crash and we tend to go to bed. But there's a second spike that actually happens with alcohol while you're sleeping, and it's an adrenaline rush, and it pushes your heart rate up and your blood pressure to rise. So while you're sleeping, you got all of a sudden this second adrenaline rush, but you don't realize that because you're in a sleep state. So that puts stress on your body. And so then when you wake up the next morning, you're exhausted and you feel hungover. But the big part of that is because alcohol has actually stimulated you enough that you're got this huge spike at the end. So we have to just take that in consideration, that when you're drinking, it's going to affect your sleep. And if you're someone who likes to drink, which most of us do, some people don't, that's fine. It's about understanding when we're doing it, how often we're doing it. These are factors that are going to take into consideration, right? If you're someone who has sleep apnea and already has trouble to sleep, drinking alcohol frequently, while you're trying to sleep, will affect the way you're going to sleep as well, right? So you got to take all these factors into consideration: room temperature, light, ambient sounds, positions. Some people like their stomach, back, side, mattress comfort. So how do you improve your sleep? So we were talking about the blue light on these electronics. The suggestion is minimum 30 minutes before bed, you have to turn it off. So this is the point where you can get into your routine, prep your day for the next day, like if you're prepping your lunch, if you go take your shower, brush your teeth, whatever you need to do, you create a routine. Cut out the phone as fast as you can, because the phone is the bigger problem. Because it's easy to turn off the TV, but then you end up getting a text message or you're answering an email. You need to cut it off at a certain point. That's also good for yourself. It set yourself some boundaries, because you need to cut away from any kind of stress like that as well. Avoid smoking too much or having a big meal, because again, we talked about food. It can spike your insulin up, and then you can have a hard time to digest it if it's a big meal, and you're gonna have a hard time to sleep. Try to get rid of any kind of noises that will stress you. However, there are points where you can use certain noises to actually benefit you. But if there's a lot of noise that's stressing you, that you have to cut those out. Fresh air, cool temperatures. Some of the things that we talked about, where I think it's really helpful, is like if you have a stressful job, because sometimes we do, and we think too much, then sometimes having the background noise is good if it's something that's relaxing. So like listening to the ocean, if that's something that relaxes you, if you're listening to birds chirping, irregardless of what it is, or meditation tape, or something that you can play that can bring a distraction from your brain to shut down and allow it to sleep. Wake up with the sun if possible. Now, in wintertime, it's obviously challenging, depending on what time you have to be at work. Because in fall and winter now, our days are getting darker, our days are shorter, so this can affect people. So actually, one of the things that I came across a few years ago was what's called a sun lamp. I know Philips makes it. I don't know if another company makes it, but basically it's an alarm clock that you set. So let's say, like I work at 6 in the morning, so I set it for 5. And at 4:30 in the morning, the light or the face of the alarm clock will start to light up ever so slightly, like a sunrise. So it's designed to mimic the sunrise, so that within the half hour of my alarms being set off, my room is lit up. So it stimulates the same stimuli that will adapt, like for my body to recognize that the sun's rising and it's time for me to wake up. So that makes it a lot easier for some people if they have to get up early in the morning. It's like it's a little tool that I suggest, and I suggest it to a lot of people, and they really enjoy it. 7 to 9 hours of optimal recovery of sleep, and then tracking your sleep if possible to see if what needs to improve. There's a lot of tools out there. You just got to figure out what's the best tool for you to be able to find what you need.
Yeah, and Faiz, there's a question on that. Actually, I can jump in and cover that one too, because we've done a lot of research on tools, and of course, our bread and butter is an application that basically allows you to really build in fitness and movement into your life. So, but as part of that, recovery is huge, right? So we work a lot of tools and stuff, and what we found is the best tracking systems that are out there are typically the wearables, the ones that are using your heart rate to be able to really monitor your sleep patterns versus movement only. So for example, like a Fitbit, an Apple Watch, a Whoop device, everything, those work great. Just you have to have something on your wrist. That's the downside. There are other devices there that you can put next to you while you're sleeping, but it's not as precise, and it is kind of cumbersome having a phone really next to you or under your pillow. So that's what we've seen as our experience as to the best things to track your sleep.
Right.
And there's another question here, Faiz, around naps. So are naps good for you during the day? Like, how does that affect everything from the sleep perspective?
If it's something that someone needs regularly, it perfectly works fine, because you're just, again, you're creating a circadian rhythm around the fact that you need a 20-minute nap. Mm-hmm. Now, if the nap makes you more tired afterwards, then you have to take consideration, is it actually worth to take the nap? Because then you get fatigued, and then now the last part of your day is a little bit dysfunctional, and then you sleep, right? So everybody works really different. Like, I don't work well with naps. Yes, some people like naps, and some people work really well with naps. I've seen really good results. So it really depends on the person. It depends on the demand of what their body is taking physically and mentally. Yep. There's some studies actually that were out in Japan where they actually have in the offices space for people to take naps. Yep. To help them recover, take them away from work, take a 20-minute nap, they go back to work, and they're much more productive. So there's a lot of research out there for some pro and from it's not necessarily against, but they're saying that it doesn't really necessarily change it. So honestly, it really depends on the person-to-person basis.
Yeah, and a couple of quick tips on that we've found works really well for naps is when Faiz was explaining the sleep cycles, the key about a sleep cycle is to never get into deep sleep into a nap. You just definitely want to be in the second phase of the sleep cycle, which is you're just regenerating and you're just going to wake up more alert and more energetic versus going into deep sleep. And the way to make sure that you don't get into deep sleep, one of the tricks is, believe it or not, if you like coffee and you're okay with it, drink caffeine. Because what it ends up doing is by the time you're going to digest it, it's going to take 20 to 30 minutes. And then that's going to wake you up from your nap. So that's a quick trick that we've seen people use, and it works for them. But I think to Faiz, what Faiz said, you have to figure out what works best for you. It's everyone's body's different, everyone's physiology is different, so you have to figure out what works best for you.
Yeah. That's a cool tip. I didn't know that. It's cool.
Cool.
So the benefits of low intensity activity. So this is the area where I think a lot of people extremely overlooked, because sleep we understand we need to sleep, we understand it's important, we understand that there's a lot of physical benefits, the mental and physical benefits to it, but the importance of low intensity activity, I think, is the part where people really struggle, because we go back down to this whole we're all or none concept, right? When we train, we push hard to the point where we can't go, and we toughen up and like, oh, this hurts, I'm going to push through it. Like, that's not necessarily the best thing to do. So the importance of low intensity activity really helps boost your circulation, improve cardiovascular function. So if you think about the research shows that when you do a longer period at a lower intensity of cardiovascular activity, you actually have more improvement in cardiovascular function than a high intensity short period. Because when you go too high intensity, you fall into the sugar realm of burning fuel. So you start using sugar more. And when you look at a long distance marathon runners, they're primarily using body fat, and their cardiovascular system starts to adapt to that. And so because it's a slower process to change, for that energy system to change, you need to have a more moderate low intensity rate for a longer period to have really good results. And then your body adapts, and that low level intensity actually improves slowly. So then their speed picks up over time, and therefore their point of high intensity is actually much higher because of that low intensity activity. That's why if you look at the body types of like marathon runners, they're much more lean and slimmer, typically because they're using body fat as a source of energy, where if you look at sprinters in explosive sports, they're usually much more muscular because they're using sugar as source of energy. And if you think about like calorie burning, like fat has much more calories than sugar. And so when you're at low intensity, moderate intensity activity, you're going to use more body fat for energy. I can give you a personal story. I worked with an athlete. She was a judo athlete, and she was heading towards 2010 games actually. And at that point, she was working with one of my colleagues, and she was basically burning out before the 2010 Olympics. And she was struggling. She was sick all the time. She was injured all the time. They were just trying to buffer her to get to the Olympics because she had qualified for her spot. It was the first time to go to the Olympics. And obviously, she was not ready. She lost in her first bout. So she came back, and my colleague's like, she didn't really know how to work with her. She didn't know how to make change for her. So she asked me to get involved and work with her. So in our evaluation, as we were chatting, I asked her when she looked great. She looked much more energized. She looked much more, she looked strong. She looked alert. And I said to her, like, when was the last time you actually took a vacation? And in all your years of training? She's like, never. I was like, in 10 years, you've never took a vacation? She's like, no. I said, okay, so we're going to change the way you're going to train, because judo is a physical sport. It's a lot of demand, old school mentality. You got to push your body. You got to push through things, which is fine to a certain extent. So what we did was we changed the cycles, and we're going to look at periodization a little bit afterwards, but we periodized her for 4 weeks, really high intensity, and then 1 week, very low intensity. And we did that for 6 months, and she was losing her mind. She would get so frustrated with the 1 week. She'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm never going to get stronger. I'm never going to improve. And I would just like, just keep working. Just trust me. And then we get back to the 4 weeks, and she feels good and she's pushing. And we get back to the 1 week again, and she would lose her mind again. And she'd get yell at me, and she would scream at me, call me names. And I would just be patient. So we did that for 6 months. And prior to her competitions, she was ranked 14th in the world at that point, and she had 3 big competitions where they're the top 3 in the world. She went back to back and won all 3 competitions, and she ended up being ranked first in the world at that point, and she was crushing everybody. There was no competition against her. And the reason, if you take it logically, at that level, there's no technical difference. What's different is what the physical and mental can do. And when you're at a sport that's really demanding physically and mentally, you cannot put yourself in a situation where you're running on fumes. So if you imagine like fuel tanks, right? So we all start here, and then during the training, we got her over here and her competitor. As they're both training, they're both burning fuel, burning, and then they recover, and then they burn and recover. But depending on how much recovery she does throughout the year, what I forced her to do is to get more recovery. So what ended up happening was this gap starts to separate between the 2 girls. So when they get to competition, this girl starts over here with very little energy, because as she gets closer to competition, she starts working harder. But this girl is over here. She's working harder, but she's got a bigger buffer. She's got this huge space between them. So then when she gets to competition, she goes through this physical demanding competition. She has to go through all the girls. This girl now has 0 energy because it's all done in 1 day. And this girl is here. So now there's this huge gap, and she comes to the finals with 50% of her tank, and this girl's running on fumes. So she goes in mentally ready, physically ready, and able to compete and take down the girl and win everything. And she came back shocked. I said, and I explained it to her the same way I just explained it, is you came there physically and mentally ready. And having this ability to have this low intensity activity allows you to recover actively, allows you to get your blood flowing better, allows you to stay mobile and flexible and have the stamina to build this. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do this. So how do we start this? By pick a time of day to take control, choose accessibility to these activities, and find a partner, build that momentum. Start small and build it, right? Because once you start to trust, once you believe in the system and you just stick to it, it will work. Stretching and myofascial release. So And the importance of stretching, we understand it, but we still don't do it. A lot of people still avoid it. Stretching is extremely important. You know, the yoga classes promote it. They promote it in training classes, but they still don't do it. The idea of stretching is you got to think of it just physically. You've got this tube that passes the blood, and the tubes are running through the muscle tissue. The tighter the muscle tissue gets on that tube, what's going to happen is that tube starts getting smaller and smaller. So the blood flow starts to decrease, and the research shows that the tighter the muscle gets to, you can actually stop blood flow almost completely by around 60% at maximum tension. So there's a huge curve of how much blood flow is reduced by not stretching enough. So by allowing you to stretch and through these low level activities, you're taking the time to stretch and get the blood flow going. You're relieving the muscle tension because you just put 4 weeks of muscle tension on your body by pushing really hard. You're allowing yourself to relax, you're breathing, you're slowing down, you're improving that mobility, okay? Begin very simple. If you're not used to it, it can get frustrating because it takes time. You need minimum 30 seconds for a stretch to really have effect. So if you're not going to hold it for 30 seconds, then you haven't done anything to it. Because it takes about 20 to 30 seconds for the nervous response to relax. So if you don't hold it for 30, you're going to get no relax. All you're going to get is the muscles fighting the stretch, right? So you got to breathe through it. It can be done anywhere. If you're sitting at your office, you stand up, you stretch your calf. You can you put your knee down, stretch your quad and stretch your hip flexors, right? You can stretch your groin by standing up and just getting into a stretch. There's a lot of things you can be doing at your office space that can take you 10 minutes, pull you away from work, relax your mind, help you. Like, let's say you get stuck on a project or something that's you can't figure out how to make this better, then you get away, you stretch, you relax, you get disconnect a little bit, come back. Oh, there we go. Now I got something that came to me because you pulled yourself away. Give yourself achievable goals. Try not to say, okay, I've never exercised before and I'm going to start exercising 5 days a week, because that's not going to work. Because the moment you start doing 4 days a week, even though 4 days a week is better than 0, you're frustrated because you didn't reach your goal. So make it achievable, right? So let's start with 2, start easy, build a routine, and then build momentum. And don't overdo it either, right? Like, you don't want to go, like I said, go too far. Like, if you go too far, then you're like, it's like the pendulum, right? You go too far this way, then you go back the other direction. You know, and you can add foam rolling. Myofascial release, you can add in like muscle work, like going to see a massage therapist, an athletic therapist, a physiotherapist, someone who can treat the muscle tissue and help, because sometimes when you're a very active person, some of the stretching doesn't get enough into it, so you want to get into it manually. Meditation. All right. So
Faiz, just a quick question on the previous one.
Yeah.
So I think we had the same question yesterday, which is on the stretching and myofascial. So
yeah.
It would be great if you could give a quick explanation of what fascia is and why it's so important to work on it, because I don't think it's something that's very commonly known in the market. It's so important. So I just wanted to make sure that it's out there and people hear about it.
Sure. So a really quick, easy example is like if you take chicken and when you're cutting it, you know, there's like a little thin layer that's clear and you pull it off, and that's kind of like, they call it the gristle. Like, that's what fascia is. So if you imagine the muscle belly is like this, the fascia coats the muscle belly and covers it, okay? But the fascia also intertwines in the muscle belly and actually is almost like a web. So it kind of intertwines through the muscle belly as well to create attachments there, as well as covering and enveloping these muscles. And so what it does is it creates a protection mode. It allows to keep the fluids within the muscle belly. It also creates the tendon. So as the fascia comes to the end of the tendon, it fuses to the other side and creates the anchor point for the tendon. And then the fascia continues. So a lot of times muscles like let's say you strain a muscle or muscles pulling on this side. Let's say you're talking about your calf muscle. So, well, the hamstrings are part of that same fascial line because they're in the same fascial envelope. So the hamstring could actually be pulling on the muscle, because if I take take my shirt and I pull on it like this, I'm pulling over here, but like the knot's here. So the fascia intertwines everything and allows it to keep things compartmentalized. And it helps support that. It has some contractile abilities too, so it helps anchor to create some contraction. And but you can stretch both. Like when you stretch, you're stretching both tissues, right? But in the release, you can do different types of releases to break it down. It's really hard to really like separate them, but like you can get surface work, which is very gentle, but then you get a little deeper, but they're both going to get released.
Got it. Thanks, Ben.
No problem. So every time I bring up this word, people's eyes roll. They have this really negative idea of meditation. And I think we need to understand what meditation really is. In yoga, when they use meditation to be present. Okay, meditation elementally, by its nature, is all about being present. Okay, it has nothing to do with sitting down like the girl sitting on the dock and being in that position. Okay, the presence or being present is being able to reduce your stress and anxiety. Okay, and to help allow yourself to understand I'm right here, right now. Okay, meditation, people, when they think about that, they go back to this, but meditation could be something as simple as playing the guitar. Let's say you like to play the guitar, and that's a de-stressor that helps you relax. You are now shutting down everything, and you are presently playing the guitar, and you get into the moment. And if you don't get distracted by your environment, you are in a form of meditation. Meditation is all about making sure that you are focused in the moment and you're not getting distracted by the environment. The best example I use is like, think about, and I learned this from a really cool app and from some psychologists too. And if you think about like just say you're standing on the side of a road and all the cars are driving by, and think of those cars as thoughts of your brain. Okay, your brain will always constantly have thoughts, and I think the biggest problem is that in meditation, we assume that we're going to have a moment where we're going to be able to shut off our brain. And that's not actual fact. There might be moments where you'll hear less noise, but you cannot stop it. The brain will continually have thoughts, ideas, emotions. These things are all going to react consistently. And so what's happening is that you're standing on the outside and you're looking at the road, and the road's just, all the cars are going like this. And think about each one as a thought, and then all of a sudden you start chasing one thought, and like, oh, this is going to go here. So you start chasing that, but then there's another thought that distracts you. So you start chasing that thought, and then you start chasing the other thought. And that's what we do all our lives, is we're constantly chasing the thoughts of, okay, one moment I'm thinking about work, next I'm thinking about the kids, next I'm thinking about my activity, next I'm thinking about this. And so your brain is constantly doing that. But we can't control that because the brain will always work that way. And if we think that we're going to have a moment to try to control that, that's a really, really, really hard challenge, and it's not realistic. So if you constantly chase the cars or your thoughts, then what you do is you put a lot more stress and anxiety because you start to chase everything that you cannot control because you're never going to keep up with the car. But if you just stand back and just look at the cars go by, well, that's not a stressful thing to do. You just sit there, relax, you see the cars go by. There's no anxiety to that. There's no stress to that, right? But because we as humans are trying to manage and control our thoughts all the time because we're like, oh, I don't want to think like this. I don't want to think like this. Well, what are you doing is you're creating stress and anxiety. And so you feed the system constantly. So the meditation or anything that you do that will provide you that ability to pull back and just observe is a form of meditation. Going for a hike into the mountains, going for a swim, anything that will provide you the moment to sit down and be present is meditation. And if you need help, there's a lot of apps that help. There's a lot of courses out there that can teach people that how to build in that, because I think that this sitting there and having that concept of the and everything like that, that negative content to it, because people roll their eyes like, oh, I can't do this, not for me. I've tried it, doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work, because the perception of what you think it is what it is the problem. So you have to start small. You have to start 5 minutes. You build it up. You have to find a quiet space, because here's the thing: the quieter the space, the more you're going to hear your thoughts in your brain, which is going to make it more challenging. But that's what you need to do. You need to get rid of the distractions that are going to stimulate the brain to keep going in that direction. Focus on your breathing. And be kind to yourself. Like you gotta be compassionate to yourself. We live in a very demanding, stressful world, and it's not easy to do certain things. And if we expect a McDonald's fix, we're going to be hungry right after again. If you expect this to happen like this, it's not going to work that way. With the mind and the body, it's a slow, dragging process that you need to take your time and eat away at it slowly until you start to make those changes and be consistent. So planning your rest, periodizing, these are things that can help you, right? So manage the application of the stress, right? How do you manage those stressors? How do you better adapt over time? How do you better improve that mental stress, their mental alertness? How do you prevent all these things is by planning. Allow yourself periods. I am going to exercise 3 times a week. These are my blocks. Put it in your schedule. I'm planning to meditate twice a week to start. I'm planning to do this for myself, right? Making sure that you have your breaks for yourself, making sure you're doing what you need to do, because like they say in most fields, you can only take care of other people if you can take care of yourself. Taking advantage of low and high seasons. Now, different sports or different professions will have low and high seasons. Like if you look at an accountant, for example, they have a high season between January and June, right? Their tax season, boom, 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 boom. And then 6 months later, they have more time, so they can do more theirs, right? So you kind of cycle these things and try to put these things into your perspective. So where to start? Start by sleeping. Improve your sleep. That's going to be a huge impact for you guys. So how do you better sleep? How do you make yourself sleep better so that you can feed to a better, healthy environment, right? So it's a vicious circle, right? If I'm stressed, I don't sleep well. I don't sleep well. I'm more stressed, right? So this is a vicious circle. So how do I change that? We have to find a way to adjust. So part of it is like journaling, trying to figure out what's changing my sleep patterns. Why can't I sleep? What am I doing in my days? Am I exercising enough? Am I exercising too much? Am I not eating well? Is my eating inconsistent? These are things that can happen, right? Pick one topic though. If you find 2 or 3 things, pick one topic and make that one change. Because if you try to do too much, then your body's gonna overload. Your brain and mind, it's gonna stress out and you're not gonna react well. 1 or 2 changes, that's it. You start with one piece, go, then the second one, go. And be consistent. Put it in your schedule. Make a routine, right? These are things that are important because routine is good. We want to create a nice, smooth circadian rhythm. And even if our routine changes a little bit, it's okay. Don't be hard on yourself. Have some compassion. Move on. Try to advance to another topic. Simple, not easy. Don't try to take the easy road, because the easy road is not necessarily the best way. You want to do the simple way. You want to simplify our lives because our lives are already complicated as it is. So that's why we talk about taking one topic. Don't try to do too many things, right? You want to take the one thing that you think is the biggest player and go. And it's a trial and error, right? You want to track it. That's why the journaling is there. You want to keep track because you need to be honest with yourself. Because if you're not honest with yourself, the only person you're fooling is yourself. And this is for you guys. This is for you to sleep better, to be more efficient in your days, to be stronger in your days, to be able to exercise better, to have a better health, quality of life, to enjoy your life with your family, your friends. These are all things that are there for that for you guys, right? And these are all tools we're trying to provide, right? So you want to make sure you're honest with yourself with that. Thank you so much, guys. Do you have any other questions?
Thank you, Faiz. I think we covered all the questions and everything. Again, thanks everyone for attending. You'll be receiving a link for a short survey. There's a whole bunch of thank yous coming in, Faiz. So you'll be receiving a short link for a survey. Please, if you could take the time, it's just to respond. Specifically the part about upcoming topics or subjects would be great, so that we can basically make sure that we're addressing subjects that are relevant to you and that are going to bring positive things in your lives. So that said, Lilly, anything from your part before we part?
Sure, just a couple of words. I just want to thank Rafi and Fayez for today's session. I also want to thank all the participants for attending the webinar today. I hope you found it informative and motivating. I encourage you, as Fayez said towards the end there, to choose one or two things that you learned today and start incorporating them into your daily routine. I also encourage you to log into your RBC Insurance Wellness Program to learn more about how to achieve your optimal health and all of the different aspects of health. You'll find a wealth of information there that can support you. And that was it for us. Just thanks again to everyone for participating, and to Fayez and Rafi.
Thank you. Thanks, Lilly. Thanks, Fayez. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
That's the next webinar.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.